Recording.
How you doing, Julian?
I'm all right, mate. How's yourself?
All right, mate. What are you on with?
The reappearing man is back again, mate. I'm almost disappearing in this heat, though. It's it's a warm one today, mate. I'm not trying to make out I've got a hard life. I'm on holiday, as you know, pal. But I think it's the bit of Irish in me, the McGowan. I don't think I'm built for the sun, mate.
I am.
Yeah, you like a bit of colour, don't you? Look, I get a little bit of colour, then I go a little bit red, a little bit brown, and then I peel after about 4 days, and then that's my summer over with, mate.
How's Kelsey and Joe? Are they all right?
Yeah, Joe's just chilled there, mate. I've been going down the hotel trying to find somewhere quiet to do this. I thought I'll do a Zoom. It'd get a nice background. Unfortunately, we couldn't find one. But Joe's chilled. We had a late night last night. Kelsey's all right, mate. And we're going to probably go out in a couple of hours and start again like you do.
All right. What's been going on? Robert Elenius.
I mean, I've said this previously. People are saying, and Eddie will, and I've not seen any of the Talk Sport stuff. I've not seen the fallout from this, as you know. I've been on holiday, and I've had a few exchanges with you. But ultimately, as I said last time, there's only one person to blame for this, and that's Matchroom. Because if you promote and you defend and you have people who have got PEDs behind them as headliners, and then it falls through, it's your own fault. You have clean athletes on a bill, they train hard. You sometimes get the odd injury, but it's become a self-fulfilling prophecy. They've done it to themselves, and now they're bringing in a guy who I've seen Helenius 3-4 times. I mean, he really can't fight. I don't care. People might talk about his record. He did this. He can't fight. He can't box. And I think he's probably a perfect opponent for a highlight reel KO. And it won't go long. 3-4 rounds. It won't go long.
It's not that long ago Dave Allen went over to Spider and bashed him up.
Wouldn't surprise me at all because Dave Allen's is tough. He throws shots. He's seasoned. He throws shots from awkward angles. And even though it looks like he just swings big right hands in, there's a little bit of ring craft to Dave Allen. That
Right, cunning as he's got older, has got a bit more cunning, hasn't he? It's more selective.
Yeah, that's what you do. You learn that, don't you? It's a guy who's done a lot of sparring, but it's just.
Do you think Dave might feel a bit wrong that he hasn't been given a call if they're going to put him in?
Well, I mean, Dave hasn't been knocked out in the first round in his last fight, has he? I mean, I know Wilder knocked out Helenius. It's hardly a disgrace, but I say his last fight before anybody corrects me and say, hang on a minute, he boxed at the weekend.
White collar guy, wasn't it?
Yeah, I saw a photograph of it. I think you sent me, and I don't even need to look at the guy's record to know about the guy just by physically looking at him. I'm like, all right, that's not a boxer, but it's just poor. I mean, clearly they couldn't charge pay-per-view. I mean, they've not been that cheeky. They're not that stupid, are they? But like I say, they've done this to themselves. I have got no sympathy whatsoever. I mean, what they could have done is they could have brought Helenius in, put him in against what is he, McKenna, whatever he's called, the Aussie.
Dempsey McKean.
And then they could have
Tony Sims fighter,
yeah, and then put Hrgovic in with AJ. Yeah. Why not do? I mean, I'm sure they'll say there's 100 reasons why you couldn't do that and blah blah blah. But he's been inactive as Hrgovic. He didn't look great last time. He seemed to get a gift against Zhang, but that would have been a fight that would have been palatable.
Pay-per-view.
It would have been a pay-per-view fight, and we'd have said, you know what, that's a decent fight. We'll give AJ credit there. But he's gone for a guy who's effectively is just
cream puff.
He's 39-year-old.
Pushing 40 this year, isn't he?
And that's the thing is all these heavyweights, even Washington was in the frame. They're all pushing 40 or they're on the wrong side.
He's pushing Washington.
Derek's
pushing 14 in November.
Yeah, are we really lacking youth coming through the heavyweight division that we have to settle for this? OAPs being dragged up time and time again. It's embarrassing. It's embarrassing. the guy Hellenius can't box, and he's
Eggs.
got no coordination. When you see a fighter who's got no coordination, it's hard to watch.
Jack Massey would have
And
done
that's
a better bet, wouldn't he?
yeah. Well, look, this is why they selected Hellenius for Wilder, because they needed to bring him back with a guy who he couldn't miss. And if Wilder can't miss someone, Wilder puts them out. He irons them out. And it was a perfect opponent. And that's exactly what they've done again. And what people aren't saying as well is they're all saying, well, he's just boxed. He'll be fit. What's the first thing a guy does who's just boxed? He goes on a bender and he just lives.
Puts weight on and doesn't train, does he? He's only just boxed a week ago, hasn't he?
Puts weight on, doesn't train. But also, it's the timing thing, isn't it? You get the timing to be sharp on the night, and then all that timing then you taper off. So he might do a couple of pad sessions. It won't really matter what he does, to be honest. This Hellenius, because he's going to make AJ look great, and it'll just. But you're not conning anybody, are you? It's like when Mike Tyson went on his round the world tour, and he were knocking out those guys. They were drumming up the Lennox Lewis fight, and Tyson was knocking out the bloody Julius Francis. Yeah, those and the Lou Savareses of this world, just easy knockover jobs. And that's what Saturday night is. Has it saved the show, or is that a show what we actually want to even bother saving?
Yeah. The Gads come out praising Anthony Joshua for taking a pay cut.
Okay.
What do you think to that?
Well, you're asking someone who always gets accused of being a socialist. It's like, listen, I've been in boxing a long time, as you know. There are fighters out there who take risks. So before anybody says you got to get as much money as you can, it's a short career. Don't insult me by saying that about Tyson Fury and Anthony Joshua. I've got that much money that the generations and generations of Joshuas and Furies will never want for anything. And that's fine. No issue with that.
Do you think he's in bad taste, Julian?
I think it's in really bad taste to mention that, because it's almost like saying, you know what? He's done you all a favor. He's taken a 10 million or a 5 million or a 50 million pay cut. Good on AJ. That's amazing. Are you kidding me? It's like, so what? Big deal. You've taken a pay cut. Ooh, what do you want? A cake, a medal? Ridiculous.
What do you think to the Fury situation and AJ? It's been going on and off for all this time, and they can't get them in ring together, and they couldn't split 100 million because Eddie's saying it's a 50-50 and they're wanting 65 million. And he went, what's the difference between 65 million and 60? What I don't get that. It's 5 million.
I think.
Do you think they've lost? You think Tyson and Anthony Joshua, Eddie Hills and Bricktop? Do you think between all of them, they don't really care about boxing fans? It's about their cuts. Because are they out of touch with what's going on in real world? Do you think
they're massively out of touch? And this is what happens when there's millionaires, multimillionaires, and then there's this level that these guys are on, which is. This is money that boxers have never earned. Obviously Floyd earned crazy money, Canelo, but I'm on about generally the heavyweights now. Even the guys who are getting lined up for knockovers, these guys are earning crazy money. And I think what's happened with Tyson and AJ is they're not about the legacy at all. They talk about being historians and studying boxing, and Fury always does that. And AJ recently saying, I've been watching old fights, I've been watching Holyfield. It's not that old to me, but for him. Yeah. And they're making out the students of boxing. They're not students of boxing, because if they were students of boxing, they would understand about the history and the lineage of the heavyweight champion. They would understand that real fighters, real heavyweight champions of the world take on all comers, good, not so good, and the great. And they just have longevity, they have big careers, and they're all about beating the best out there continually. And these guys are all about the money. It's like, it's not even... It's 10% legacy, 90% money. Like there's an element of the legacy comes into it. It's just got beyond silly, and they are way too wealthy. You got Floyd Mayweather, who I was an admirer of, changed his name to Money Mayweather. Great marketing strategy, but it purely shows what it's all about. And you've had the Adrian Broners, and the Tank Davises, they're always showing rolls of cash out there. They're always getting these massive rolls of cash out, Ferraris, Lamborghinis, and it's like, it's crass. And I'm not suggesting you should have a cap on what people earn, but I do think it's got way too much. They've got too much money. They've lost touch, which, to your point, they have completely lost touch with the everyday man. They've forgotten who they were. They've forgotten that Tyson Fury will have had very little as a child, being brought up, his dad not bringing him much money. They've forgot about all of that, and they've lost touch. And it's almost like this happens with guys like Paul McCartney. You get working class lads who then become kind of like avid capitalists, don't they? And it's because the greedy beyond greed. It sickens me, mate.
Yeah.
Can I just say one point? Just one point, Russell. Sorry, I know you always give me. And this is something, and this is just me, right? I know Richard talked about this previous, and I love Richard. He's great when he comes on your show. But Richard was talking about, you wouldn't turn this kind of money down if you got offered it. I just want to make a point that there are a lot of people out there who are not motivated by money. And if people said to me, well, you would do this for money and you would do that for more money, you know me, I've been offered some big jobs in the past, turned them down, big jobs in the past, and I've turned them down for loyalty, for whatever reason. For me, it's not all about money. And I do think there are people out there who are not driven by money. And that's the thing, you see. There's this perception then gets out there that that's all anyone's ever about is money. And you can't blame them. Well, you can blame them. They're supposed to be athletes, supposed to be sportsmen and competitors, and it shouldn't be all about money. Now, that might sound a naive statement, but money's not my God, and it never will be, pal.
Yeah. Shame on them, really, because I'm looking at interviews and trying to piece it all together. We have Eddie Hills coming out. It's 100 million, 60 million, split 60, 40, 70, 30, then 80 million in pot. And then he can't bring this money together and this money and blah, 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 and skill set challenge or whatever, and Saudi Kingdom and private jets and all this. And I think people have lost the marbles and forgot that
You're right.
we're boxing people from the UK, and the end game for UK fans is Wembley Stadium, world title fights, pay-per-view, and it putting on an event. And now people want more than that now, don't they? And we've all lost touch with what. I'm not saying this because I'm a Carl Froch fan and he's my friend. I'm on about when he got to Wembley with Groves. That were like the pinnacle, and Eddie said all fights are going to go to that now. That's where we're going to go. And that looks to me like it's been put to one side now, and they want to go that step further. And all the greed around it. It'd be like with Spencer Oliver with bringing that KSI over and doing them thingy shows and that, a few years ago, about 4 or 5 years ago. And now he's being critical about that, but he took the money. Is he going to hand the money back? What he had, because he had a lot of money out of the job, didn't he, Spencer Oliver? They did very well out of it, didn't they? Him and his mate from EastEnders, they had it off, didn't they? Jake, what is it?
They're all making, I know what you mean. I know exactly what you mean, but they're all doing very well, mate, out there out of boxing at the moment. They're Gareth A. Davis, absolutely. All of them are doing very well out of the sport, and that's why they're just kissing each other's asses and they're slapping each other on the back because they just want to keep earning. And I refer, honestly, I refer to my previous point. It's become everything's about money now. And money makes the world go around, and you can be very, very poor and struggle, and money's important. I understand that, but how much money do you need, Russell?
I know.
How much money do you need?
You only need so much, don't you? Del Boy's come out. He said that skill set challenge, whatever they're called. He said Eddie's not paying me, and Eddie got Eddie to admit it at the presser, and he said they're paying him. So they must think a lot about Derek, them Saudi people.
They seem to be doing, don't they? I think I remember speaking to you about 12 months ago when you started being a face around with the Saudis. And I said to you, I don't think Derek should box again. I think he's found a good role. He's this kind of promoter. He's not an eloquent guy, but he's he looked well over there, and he looked like he just fitted in with the Saudis and at the big events and the presses and things. And I think he's probably a good person to have around. He's charismatic, and that's what I would do if I were him. And obviously, they think they've got someone there in Del Boy who's, I think he's got credibility because whatever we say about him, and you and I think he should have retired several years ago, and he will be doing it for the cash. But he'll fight anybody. Will Chisora?
Yeah.
He actually will fight anybody.
Oh yeah, because he knows he's going to get paid because he's controversial, isn't he? But he's had 13 losses. He should be parked up now, shouldn't he?
Oh, he should definitely be parked up. But
do you think he'll end up on slab? Touch what he done.
They got to match him carefully because we don't want to see a heavyweight who, listen, he's not my favourite heavyweight, but generally the fans do love Del Boy, don't they? He's popular, like I said, with Saudis love him as well. And he is a bad knockout waiting to happen because his reflexes have completely gone. His technique has gone, and there was something really bad.
His legs is that either after 3 rounds, is there now?
Yeah, I think it was a Pulev fight before he fought Fury. I said to you, it was creaking. His knees were creaking, and what happened in that fight was I know he got the win, but a couple of times he got caught with like half shots, what weren't great shots, and there was like a little bit of a shake to his legs and a shake to his whole body, and that's when everything's going. You know, when you start shaking from
signs, isn't it? He's the last one to know, though, isn't he?
Yeah,
last one to admit it. To admit it, he'll know.
That's what they say, isn't it? Boxers are the first one to know, the last one to admit when they pass the primes, and I think that's the case with him. I don't want to see him box again. I mean, they're not great spectacles now. They're just big maulathons. They're not great.
Elmer Fudd's in a fight with Harry Armstrong for Central Southern Area heavyweight title belt. What do you think to Elmer putting his Senate mix to fight Joshua? Do you think that'd have been like David Allen going in against Ortiz?
It would have been a massacre, wouldn't it? Because there's one thing bringing fighters through domestic levels who have got potential to go far, but it's pretty clear with Johnny Fisher, he is a gimmick. He's a big, strong, heavy-handed ex-rugby player who's really not a boxer.
Do you think he's media trained because he seems to say all right things? He's like a matchroom cyborg, isn't he? In an interview, people say he's like a matchroom. He's like, we could not fade away. We could not fade away. He's like spewing out the media trained one-liners like what Joshua used to throw out, but on a lesser scale because of his profile.
Oh, he's what's called he's a poster boy, isn't he, for Matchroom?
Yeah.
And he knows where his bread's buttered.
I want to save the show because they're my friends and all that is coming out with. And
Well, at some point he'll get talked into a fight that's really wrong for him, and he'll get annihilated. I mean, there was one fight when I think it was his first 6-rounder. The guy wasn't great, but he had a tiny bit of ring craft, and he just showed really how raw Johnny Fisher was. And I know he's not been boxing only 2-3 years, but the guy's going to be really lucky to get anywhere near British title level. Really lucky. Depends who they're matching with, doesn't it? Depends who's around, but you just have to look at his opponent. You have to look at the Campbell Hatton's opponent. They know exactly what they're doing by getting these non-punchers in with these guys.
Campbell Hatton's 12-0. He's fighting a guy that can't knock a wet echo out, and he'll be 13-0. He's not had a title fight yet. Are they going to pad him out to 25-0 like Johnny Fisher? Just keep him churning him out to prop shows up.
Yeah, and this is the thing, Russell. I've said to you before about Campbell Hatton. No issue Campbell Hatton fighting journeyman after journeyman after journeyman. It's the fact they're on these big events, isn't it? That's what kind of grates people, because you're having to watch a kid who's not that great against opponents who are not that great and not that ambitious, and that becomes the problem.
Yeah.
What I do know as well, I know, and I've heard this, and I don't care what anybody says about social media, and you're wrong. I know, because I know people still in boxing, that Campbell Hatton generally spars very select fighters who aren't heavy-handed, who are from white-collar background. He doesn't spar great kids either.
I know kids that have been knocked back for sparring with him who can punch a little bit, and they were knocked back. And it's
so that concurs
his dad pays
that
as well, like that. His dad does pay the sparring partners, but I know kids who are not big punchers and amateurs as well, and they've said, no, we've got so and so coming in. They go, well, he can't punch. You know what I mean? So if that's how they want to do it, it looks like he's a bit gimmicky, a bit like going down the Conor Benn route, any kind of thing.
Yeah, and I think Campbell seemed. I always like Matthew Hatton. Matthew always seems like a good bloke, but Campbell he still comes out with it. Maybe that's his dad. You know, maybe my kids are like me, but he's got the same one-liners that his dad used to use, and they're all a bit. It's a bit done before, isn't it? It's a bit cliched, and it's just a bit.
And
All right,
City
I've seen this
following and all
before.
that, and it's all.
Yeah, it's a bit sickly, isn't it?
They know that as well, but they're putting their heads down, battening hatches down, and they're just taking the money what they can. They don't care for what real boxing fans think. These lot are all about the money, but I think the last 12 months, a lot of them in the industry, like this lot, they've shown how grubby they can really get. If they want to get grubby, they're not bothered. The Bens, we know about the Hearns and all the rest of that show, but
Not bothered.
and the Hattons have, I think, because I wanted to get behind Campbell Hatton, but once I seen what they were doing with him and they were gifting him wins like they were Conor Benn, he had that P&O gift. Hatton had one early doors, didn't it? You can see a pattern, can't we? Where it's going to end up with one of them on slab in it.
Yeah, and that's the thing with Campbell is because he's worryingly got like no defense at all, like absolutely none. I mean, if you watch even the really poor kids he's been fighting, even all fights, even the fights he's ended pretty quickly. When Campbell Hatton gets caught, he gets caught flush. Slam jabs, right hands, left hooks. He gets caught flush by kids who aren't that good. So you worry, don't you, that when he does, if he comes up against a kid who's an ex-GB kid or something like that, or someone who's a journeyman with a bit of power who's in a bad mood, he's not good. He's not going to get outpointed. He's going to get. It'll be like his dad against Manny Pacquiao. It'll be savage.
Yeah.
Do you know what? It's none of my business, right? He's a nice kid, but if it was my son, and I were a former world champion who'd earned tens and tens and tens of millions, I'd say boxing's not for you, and I'd have got him a first class education, mate, and sent him in a different route in life. But I guess it's all that happens now, isn't it?
Yeah. Do you think Dillian Whyte's now finding out who his friends are? You've seen the Derek Chisora interviews. A lot of they've all turned on him, haven't they? A lot of them.
They didn't turn on him after the Oscar Rivers.
4 years down the line, though, they haven't they?
Yeah, they've turned on him now because they've almost squeezed every last sell out of that man to the point that, well, this was his last hurrah. He was going to get knocked out again by Joshua. And anybody who, a lot of people say, I'm not sure about that. AJ's still got too much for Whyte, who never really won more than 5 seconds of that first fight, and 2 bad KO defeats. So he's done. He's done, and the same people though haven't distanced themselves from Conor Benn, have they?
No, because he's 10 years younger. 10 years younger, isn't he?
Yeah. Yeah, but if Conor Benn, let Conor Benn have 10 year in the pros, start to fade, and if he pops again in 8, 9, 10 years time, let's see if there's the same defense for Conor Benn that we've seen in the last 12 months.
All them people that used to hang out back of Dillian Whyte, Coogan and all them. Where's Coogan?
Oh, yeah.
Now, Whyte put a video out saying it's not Conor Benn. Dillian Whyte's innocent and giving him an exclusive on IFL. There's none of that now, but that's Coogan's friend. He says he's his close friend. Now, he's had a lot of views with Dillian over years, 8, 9 years. He milked it. They've been out for food together. They've been round world together, in each other's houses. They've met each other's families, blah, blah, blah. Coogan's got a big platform there, whether his subscribers are bought or what. He's got a big platform. He's the #1 guy to go to on YouTube for boxing, for content. And he ain't come out batting for Dillian Whyte, has he, Coogan Cassius?
Because he's probably got no further use for Dillian Whyte, has he? And it's
has he been
simple.
Yeah, but it's nothing out of his day. Hang on a minute. It's nothing out of his day for Coogan to do a Zoom like me and you, 40 minutes, take 40 minutes out of your day, 20 minutes to upload it, stick a thumbnail on. He don't put thumbnails on, but it's nothing out of his day to take an hour out for his friend, who I've heard is in a pretty depressed state at the moment and pretty fed up and dejected, right? So it's nothing out of Coogan's day for 1 hour for his friends. So if he can't do that, there might be phone calls behind the scenes. Let's not criticise Coogan, but why can't he get him out there? Has he been told he can't? And if that's right, whose channel is it? Because I've just seen an interview with that Parsons. You saw it, didn't you? I sent you the clip on Boxing Social interviewing Eddie. I sent you the little video clip of it, and it said,
"Oh yeah.
He said, "Oh, I'm just here with the gaffer." You know, because Eddie's been flying him about New York and whatever they've been going, London and whatever hotels, all that. Is Eddie controlling these YouTubers, these young YouTubers like Coogan, what he is, and these other ones that are coming through? Is he controlling them?
Definitely, I don't think there's any doubt about that. It's as rigged as the whole sport of boxing.
You saw the 62-minute. You saw the 62-minute interview, didn't you? If that weren't rigged, I don't know what were. I saw the Umar one with Bricktop, where they were already with all emails to slate Carl Froch and dates where he met Froch and all that. You know, 2006, July 12th and all that, whatever. But so
yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
So these Monday morning sermons that we've had for 12 years with Coogan and Eddie, they're all set up, aren't they? I used to say, no, they're off cuff like what I do it. Me and Dennis used to do them off cuff, as you know and as you've seen. They're set up, aren't they? We're being controlled. Do you know what I mean? So
there's nothing's off the cuff about what they do. You only have to listen to the back and forth between Parsons and Eddie Hearn, and it's just two public schoolboys just grabbing each other's nuts under the table and laughing and joking. And this is what they do. It's as cringe as it gets, and people think it's funny and it's humour and it's cheeky chappies, and it's embarrassing. It's like you say all the time. This is boxing. This is supposed to be a man's sport. Well, obviously now it's a women's sport as well, but this is supposed to be a masculine, testosterone-loaded sport where people have integrity, morals, and a backbone. And we've got fighters who won't fight each other for less than 20, 30, 40 million. We've got people who are arguing over percentages, and now we've got the media, effectively being controlled by the promoters and by the organizations. And it's just cringeworthy. And anybody like yourself who tells it as it is, you just get marginalized. They can't shut you up, but they can shut you out. And there's a difference, isn't there?
Yeah, of course there is. Yeah. Do you think Usyk's going to get a fight with any of these big dogs? Do you think Joshua Wilder even happens? I mean, I've made a big statement the other day, putting that video out that nearly did 10,000 views from 5 years ago. But I were kicking off basically about the Wilder fight then, and that was 16 months after they promised it. Is it? We're now another 5 years down the line, and they ain't going to be this year, so it's going to be next summer now. So that's going to be 7 years since they promised us it. But that anything could get away from us, because Wilder ain't got a fight and he's going to need a fight. So are they all timing it so and so has a fight? So they're just missing Wilder, because we see Joshua just seems to be missing Wilder whatever when they're going to have it, and then he's got another fight, and then he's not fighting, and so failed the drug test. It's getting further and further away, these fights, aren't they, Julian? Do you think?
Well, this is where all the press, the Gads, the Spencer Olivers, and everybody else, they all get giddy whenever you or I are critical about. We laughed initially about this Saudi thing, didn't they, when they were talking about 2 semi-finals and a final, and we just said, what a load of crap. We said they'll be lucky to get 1 fight, never mind 3 fights. And all they keep talking about lately is they say, oh, it's alive, his heavyweight division, and these are all the hors d'oeuvres, they're all appetizers before the ultimately we get the big crescendo, and we get the massive fights. We get Joshua against Wilder, we get Fury, Usyk, and then the winners will meet. We're going to get them. And you know what? These idiots and these arse-stickers, it's 20-odd years since we've had a unified heavyweight champion. Why do they think this is suddenly? Exactly. So what have I said to you before, Russell?
Well,
you froze me. I don't know if that's me or you.
Fought in 99, didn't they, for it? It would, and it would. What would they give it as a?
As I've said,
Oh,
yeah, like I've said to you, mate, in the past 5 years, 6 years, right, there's only been 3 fights we've wanted. We've had other fights. We've had Fury and Wilder 3 times. We've had Joshua and Usyk. But the fights we wanted Wild. But at heavyweight, we wanted Wilder and Joshua.
Yeah. What's going on there? I don't know what's happened there. It looks like Julian's disappeared. It looks like Julian's disappeared there. I don't know what's gone on there. Oh, and it looks like he's back. That we're joined by the reappearing man.
Sorry, Russell,
Julian
disappeared.
McGowan. Pop, pop, bang.
The Wi-Fi is never good over here. Yeah, I was just going to say there's only 3 fights we've wanted at heavyweight, right? Oh, never mind all the ones we've had. We wanted Wilder against Joshua.
Yeah.
Then we wanted Joshua against Fury when they're both unbeaten. And then we wanted Fury and Usyk. All the other big fights we've had, the big fights, there might be big fights, Usyk against AJ, Wilder and Fury, 3 of those, but they weren't the ones that decided the number one, were they? None of those fights decided the number one. Whereas had we had Wilder and AJ when Fury was retired, that would have decided who were number one. And had we had AJ and Fury, that would have decided. And had we had Usyk and Fury, that would have told us who were number one. But we've never had a decisive number one heavyweight for a long, long time now. So why, when they can't deliver one of those 3 fights I've just mentioned, why are we suddenly going to get all these big fights?
Well, I've got a.
It's not happening.
Yeah, it ain't happening. One of my pals, I've got a pal, he says to me, and you ever thought, Porky, that Tyson Fury and Anthony Joshua want to hoover up as many millions as they can with easy fights and that, and then do a Manny Pacquiao and Floyd at end and fight when they're about 40 odd? I said, yeah, but that's not good for sport, is it? They're already multi-millionaires. They can't spend what they've got, so it's pure greed. But what I can't understand is why people want to back these people and they don't want to fight the main fights. I mean, when you look at the greats from the past, and we don't need to mention, we know who they are, don't we? Ali, Larry Holmes, all them sort of people, Leonard, Duran, Agler, Earns, people like that. Carl Froch, I have to put him in that bracket because he's an Hall of Famer. Do you know what I mean? That Super Six tournament, they all fought everybody. Soon as he'd done it Super Six tournament, the winner were going to fight Bute because he'd had 10 defences. Bute, he was classed as the man, wasn't he? It was going to be the winner versus Bute. Ward said Bute hadn't earned his stripes off Froch. Says, I'll have some of that. He went straight back in there with another killer. Do you know what I mean? Where's this next Carl Froch? This next Leonard Agler, Earns, Duran? Where's the next Terry Norris? Where are they? Where's Larry Holmes, Ali, Joe Frazier, Sonny Liston? Where are these guys that are going to take on a fight where we're sitting down to watch it like Spence Crawford? And do you know what? We've got hairs on our arms because we're like, you're talking with your mate and you can't decide and you're stripping down their attributes and what they're good at and what they're not at. And you just don't know. Where are them fights? You know, like a proper pay-per-view, like Dennis when he went out to HBO officers. And he said to me, I was sat in HBO officers in New York with some people and they were talking about pay-per-view and they said, look, pay-per-view is for one of the fights where you say, we can't miss it. We just don't know who's going to win. Now, fighters are holding everybody to ransom and everything's a pay-per-view, isn't it? Beefy Smith against Eubank. That's a pay-per-view. They're not all
terrible, that, isn't it?
It's shockers. It's shocking.
I mean, how can that be a pay-per-view to a domestic and maybe Euro level fighter?
How many world champion Beefy Smith beat? He's a former world champion. Has he beat a world champion? No. Chris Eubank, what's he done? That's not pay-per-view.
I mean, he's
2 bites at Cherry.
Nothing.
But they're not going to knock it back because that's the way boxing's going at the moment. But I always thought pay-per-view were for them fights where, you know, Froch Kesler, you're like, oof, Froch Kesler 2. The first one, they didn't have it because because of recession, but Froch Kesler 2, Froch Bute. Well, Froch Bute weren't pay-per-view, and non-pay-per-view. Ward Froch were not pay-per-view. Froch Pascal non-pay-per-view. Come on. You know, well, so now everything's pay-per-view, or We've got to have millions, or we're losing touch. These fighters are holding everybody to ransom, but the promoters are not putting the foot down with him. But the main problem is the TV companies. They need to turn around and say, this ain't right.
That enough's enough, yeah.
Showtime pulled out, didn't they? They weren't going to be able to. When it Showtime, which one were it all pulled out? Were it Showtime or HBO? One of them pulled out. I might have it wrong. One of them pulled out of boxing, didn't they? Were it HBO?
Well, if we ever get fights now
HBO,
on
Julian, that pulled out
television.
Were it HBO that pulled out of boxing?
Yeah, on box office, I think it was. Yeah.
One American one. So there's ESPN.
I'd have to check it.
Yeah, Ken, let me know on that one. Pop, bang. But one of them
Campbell,
pulled out. Yeah, one of them pulled out, didn't they? Do you know? Because they said we're not being held to ransom by promoters and fighters. No, it ain't right. Do you know what I mean?
And the only coverage we've got on terrestrial television is Channel 5, and it's pretty poor stuff, is that, mate?
Well, they put misfits.
Remember what we used to get? We used to get Harry Carpich on the BBC and Reg and Jim on the ITV, and we get the build-up, the coverage, and we got some great fights on when, 15, 20 million people were watching those events. And now they're lucky if they do a million. A million views is considered fantastic for a regular Sky show. They get 200,000-300,000 if they're lucky.
You know what last boxing promoter from UK to put a show on at BBC? Dennis Hobson, Clinton Woods.
I think I remember saying that, yeah.
Were it Ola Clemenson? I'm not sure. It was Clinton against somebody. And some years later, we went to see him at BBC at Salford Quays, in Manchester, and they didn't even know that this new generation that Dennis had put the last show on. I said, well, you should have checked your emails from me. They didn't even know that these new people.
They didn't even know.
They weren't interested in boxing. They weren't interested. They were interested in AJ. Well, Dennis says, well, I ain't got AJ. But they weren't interested. They were obsessed by Joshua. That's all they wanted to talk about. You can imagine me sat there. I'm looking at Dennis and like, and then Dennis starts coming out with his Terry Curran stories about greyhounds and that.
It's changed, hasn't it? It's massively changed. It's just, as you know, I keep saying I'm done. I can't watch this, and I do actually. For anyone who says, "Oh, he always says that," I watch very little boxing now. I watch very little media stuff. You'll send me a few things. I just disengage from it, and I got to the stage. I'll watch a fight if I want to watch a decent fight. If one comes up, I didn't even watch Crawford and Spence because I was. Oh no, I've not seen it. I was so sickened by the fake news that Conor Benn has been cleared. Rather interesting. Well, when's his announcement? When's his next fight?
Well, they haven't announced it. It's supposed to be September 23rd. Supposed to be September 23rd.
Well, we're in
7 weeks.
We're in second week of August now, and there's been nothing being announced, mate.
Why aren't they putting him on
fight
in
March.
America? He can fight over there, can't he? Fight in America, Eddie says. Why don't you put him on?
He's cleared to box, apparently. I don't know if Robert Smith's come out and said anything. I've not looked for it and I've not seen it, but he might have done, he might not. I don't know.
Best regards, Roberto. Don't forget Gary Sykes' belt you owe him. Pop, bang.
Yeah.
Right, thanks for coming on, Jules. I'll love you and leave you to go spend some time with your lovely kids, your little two lads. Have a great
Thank you, buddy.
There in Tenerife, and I will speak to you again, hopefully, before you come home. All right?
Yep, another week, yeah. Cheers, buddy. Thanks for
care, pal.
mate.
Right.
Bye, buddy.
Bye. Well, that was Julian McGowan. Straight talk from Julian. Disillusioned is the word, isn't it? What's the answer? Well, the answer is don't buy pay-per-view. DAZN's show this weekend's not pay-per-view, but if you're not a DAZN member, it's £20. So it's like a pay-per-view, isn't it? So I thought I'd get that in Eddie Hills. Pop, in bang. Well, peace out. Off to the gym now. Bit of back and biceps.